ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। ॐ नमो भगवते वासुदेवाय। नारायणं नमस्कृत्य नरं चैव नरोत्तमं देवीं सरस्वतीं व्यासं ततो जायमुदीरये। नष्टप्रायेषु वभद्रेषु नित्यं भागवत सेवया भगवतीरुत्तमश्लोके भक्तिर्भवति नैष्टिकी। ॐ अज्ञानतिमिरन्धस्य ज्ञानाञ्जनशलाकया चक्षुरुन्मिलितं येन तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। श्रीचैतन्यमनोभीष्टं स्थापितं येन भूतले स्वयं रूपकदा मह्यं ददाति स्वपदान्तिकम्। नमो विष्णुपादाय कृष्णपृष्ठाय भूतले श्रीमते भक्तिवेदान्त स्वामिनिति नामिने। नमस्ते सरस्वते देवे गौरवाणी प्रचारिणे निर्विशेष शून्यवादी पाश्चात्यदेशतारिणे। जय श्री कृष्ण चैतन्य प्रभो नित्यानंद श्री अद्वैत गदाधर श्रीवासादि गौर भक्त वृंद। हरे कृष्णा 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 हरे हरे, हरे राम 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 हरे हरे। Hare Krishna, reading from Śrīmad-Bhāgavatam. By His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. We are reading from Canto 3, Chapter 28, Kapila's instructions on devotional service. So, we are in the first section of this chapter, where we are discussing limbs of Ashtanga Yoga, text 1 to 12. So, currently we are at text 9. Pranasya shodhayet margam purakumbhakare chakaihi pratikulena vachittam yatha sthiram achanchalam. Translation: the yogi should clear the passage of vital air by breathing in the following manner. First, he should inhale very deeply and then hold the breath in and finally exhale, or the reversing the process, the yogi first exhale and thus mind becomes steady and free from the external situations. So we are discussing, and Srila Prabhupada is describing importance of controlling the mind and the process of bhakti-yoga, which is directly controlling the mind. So we continue purport.
Three different activities are recommended for clearing the passage of breath: Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka. Inhaling the breath is called Puraka. Sustaining it within is called Kumbhaka, and finally exhaling it is called Rechaka. This recommended process can also be performed in the reverse order. After exhaling, one can keep the air outside for some time and then inhale. The nerves through which inhalation and exhalation are conducted are technically called Ida and Pingala. The ultimate purpose of clearing the Ida and Pingala passages is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. As stated in Bhagavad Gita, one's mind is his enemy, and one's mind is also his friend. Its position varies according to the different dealings of the living entity. If we divert our mind to thoughts of material enjoyment, then our mind becomes an enemy. And if we concentrate our mind on the lotus feet of Krishna, then our mind is a friend. By the yoga system of Puraka, Kumbhaka, and Rechaka, or by directly fixing the mind on the sound vibration of Krishna or on the form of Krishna, the same purpose is achieved. In Bhagavad Gita 8.8, it is said that one must practice the breathing exercise Abhyasa Yoga Yuktena. By virtue of these processes of control, the mind cannot wander to external thoughts, Chetasa Nanyagamina. Thus, one can fix his mind constantly on the Supreme Personality of Godhead and can attain Yati, that is Him. Practicing the yoga system of exercise and breath control is very difficult for a person in this age, and therefore Lord Chaitanya recommended Kirtaniya Sadahari. One should always chant the holy name of the Supreme Lord, Krishna, because Krishna is the most suitable name of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The name Krishna and the Supreme Person Krishna are non-different. Therefore, if one concentrates his mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same result is achieved. Hare Krishna.
Now further, Srila Prabhupada explains that there are three activities recommended here as a part of pranayama. One is called as puraka, kumbhaka, and rechaka. Puraka means, one who inhales. When we inhale, that inhale of the breath is called as puraka. Sustaining within the kumbha of the body, that is called as kumbhaka. And rechaka, rechaka matlab pachan ho jana, ya fir, you digest, is called as rechaka. And when you exhale that breath after after digesting the breath, that is called as rechaka. So puraka, kumbhaka, and rechaka, and this can be done in a reverse order as well. And the nerves through which the inhalation and the exhalation is conducted, they are technically called as Ida and Pingala. So this is a very deep science of yoga, where one will be taught upon, like we have the two nostrils, and particularly these nostrils refer to Ida Pingala, and these nostrils also refer to whether our breath is hot or cold, and based on the which nostril is, the which breathing is predominantly working from which nostril, one can do a lot of the projection about how the person is happening and what's happening in his mind, how his mindset is, what hormones are being secreted, so a lot of things are can be predicted by study of this Ida and Pingala. But the ultimate purpose of clearing this passage, Ida and Pingala, is to divert the mind from material enjoyment. Srila Prabhupada quotes Bhagavad Gita, Bandhuratmatmanastasya yenatmaivatmanajitah anatmanastu shatrutve vartaitatmaiva shatruvat. One's mind is one's best friend when it is controlled and engaged in the service of the Lord. And similarly, the mind can become the worst enemy if it is uncontrolled. And therefore, somehow or other, we have to control our mind and focus it in devotional service. So there are multiple ways, either the mechanical process of breathing, one can try to control the mind, or the direct process of devotional service, like chanting the holy names of the Lord, or absorbing mind in the deity, taking darshan of the deity, one can attain the same result. And that's why, previously, Kapila Muni had recommended his mother, Paschanti te me ruchirani ambasanta, prasanna vaktra runa lochanani, rupani divyani varapradani, sakam vacham spruhaniyam vadanti. So when we take darshan of the Lord, and now later, beginning from text here 13 onwards, very elaborately, Lord Kapila is going to describe how to take darshan of the Supreme Lord. And this is the process. The process is abhyasa yoga yuktena. What happens? By this abhyasa, chetasa nanyakamina. Chetasa nanyakamina means the mind will be focused on Krishna. Abhyasa yoga yuktena chetasa nanyakamina paramam purusham divyam yati partha anuchintayan. That this is how, if we do anuchintayan, constantly thinking of the Lord, mind is engaged in the thinking of the Lord, and this meditation, one can very easily attain yati. Yati means one can attain the Supreme Lord. Srila Prabhupada says this yoga process is not very easy to practice. In fact, when this yoga process was described in Bhagavad Gita, Arjuna, who is extremely powerful warrior, far beyond in character, competence, and devotion, far beyond in control of the senses, the direct natural reply was Arjuna vacha, yoyam yogastvaya prokta samyena madhusudhana etasyaham na pashyami chanchalatvat sthitim sthiram. And then he describes what the mind is. Chanchalam himana krishna pramati palavadridam tasyaham nigraham manye vayoriva sudushkuram. So Prabhupada says this process of yoga, Dhyana yoga, is a bona fide process by trying to control the mind by this particular activity. But it is extremely difficult for Arjuna, what to speak of Kali Yuga people like, you and me. And therefore, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu recommended the direct process. And what is the direct process? Kirtaniya sadahari. That savai manah krishna padarvindayor. Tasmat kenapi upayena manah krishna niveshayat. Somehow or other, try to hook your mind to Krishna. And this is how, if one concentrates one's mind on hearing and chanting Hare Krishna, the same and greater result is achieved. Right? So we come to text 10. मनोचिरात् स्याद्य विरजं जितश्वासस्य योगिनः वायु अग्निभ्यां यथा दोहं ज्ञात्मं त्यज्यति वैमलम्. Translation.
Translation: the yogis who practice such breathing exercise are very soon freed from all mental disturbances, just as gold, when put into fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all impurities. Purport: the process of purifying the mind is also recommended by Lord Chaitanya. He says that one should chant Hare Krishna. He says further, Param Vijayate, all glories to Sri Krishna, Sankirtana. All glories are given to the chanting of the holy names of Krishna, because as soon as one begins this process of chanting, the mind becomes purified. Cheto Darpana Marajanam. By chanting the holy name of Krishna, one is cleansed of the dirt that accumulates in the mind. One can purify the mind either by the breathing process or by the chanting process, just as one can purify the gold by putting it in fire and fanning it with a bellows. Hare Krishna.
Now here is the result of such breathing process. The yogis who practice such breathing, their minds are purified and they are freed from all mental disturbance, just as the gold, when put in fire and fanned with air, becomes free from all the impurities. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada recommends chanting of the holy name, because generally whenever we hear this, natural tendency is that I want to do that. Like, when we'll see pastime of Dhruva Maharaj. And there, pastime of Dhruva Maharaj, where Dhruva, he went to the forest, performed 6 months of intense austerity. And naturally, one may feel that, oh, let me also go to the forest and do 6 months of austerity. But that is not recommended in this age, neither by our spiritual master. Dhruva performed this in Satyuga and performed as per instruction of his spiritual master. Right. So therefore, our instruction here is Param Vijayate Sri Krishna Sankirtanam Cheto Darpana Marjanam. The mind will be completely purified by the process of chanting and hearing. And thus, this process of Shravanam Kirtanam Vishnu Smaranam can completely purify the dust and purify the mind. So yoga process is also powerful. Chanting is also powerful, but chanting is doable by everyone. Yoga process is not allowed for somebody who is a grahastha sitting in the home. Woman, there is no question of doing it. Somebody doing job and everything, no way. Shuchaudesha Pratistapya. It begins with when you take sannyas and go to the Himalayas and sit there. So, although yoga process is powerful, but it is highly limited and it is very ineffective. And even at reaching the realm, there is always a chance that patanti adonadriti yushmadangraya. So look at this. So many terms and conditions apply in the yoga process. So all these are nullified in devotional service. And therefore, just as the gold is purified in the fire, similarly, mind of a devotee is purified by the transcendental process of Sankirtana. Text 11. प्राणायामये दहे दोषान् धारणाभि च किल्बिषान् प्रत्याहारेण संसर्गान् ध्यानेन अनीश्वरान् गुणान्. Translation.
By practicing the process of pranayama, one can eradicate the contamination of his physiological condition. And by concentrating mind, one can become free from all sinful activities. By restraining the senses, one can free himself from material association. And by meditating on the Supreme Personality of Godhead, one can become free from the three modes of material attachment. Purport: according to Ayurvedic medical science, the three items kapha, pitta, vayu, phlegm, bile, and air maintain the physiological condition of the body. Modern medical science does not accept this physiological analysis as valid, but the ancient Ayurvedic process of treatment is based upon these items. Ayurvedic treatment concerns itself with the cause of these three elements, which are mentioned in the many places in the Bhagavatam and as the basic conditions of the body. Here it is recommended that by the practicing the breathing process of pranayama, one can be released from the contamination created by the principal physiological elements. By concentrating the mind, one can become free from sinful activities. And by withdrawing the senses, one can free himself from material association. Ultimately, one has to meditate on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in order to be elevated to the transcendental position where he is no longer affected by the three modes of material nature. It is also confirmed in Bhagavad Gita that one who engages himself in unalloyed devotional service at once becomes transcendental to the three modes of material nature and immediately realizes his identification with Brahman. Sagunam sametam Brahma bhuyaya kalpate. For every item in the yoga system, there is a parallel activity in bhakti yoga, but the practice of bhakti yoga is easier for this age. What was introduced by Lord Chaitanya is not a new interpretation. Bhakti yoga is a feasible process that begins with chanting and hearing. Bhakti yoga and other yogas have as their ultimate goal the same percent of Godhead, but one is practical and others are difficult. One has to purify his physiological condition by concentrating and by restraint of the senses. Then he can fix his mind upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead. That is called samādhi.
Now these are the results of overall process of Ashtanga Yoga. Pranayama. From the pranayama, by practicing pranayama process, one can eradicate the contamination of his physiological conditions, kapha vata pitta. By dharana, one can be free from all the sinful activities. By pratyahara, one can free himself from material association. And by dhyana, one can be completely elevated and be freed from three modes of material nature. So Kapila Muni now beautifully describes the overall results. What is the result of yama, niyama, asana? So what is the result of yama? Yama means don'ts. The result of yama is papa is destroyed. Result of niyama is punya is accumulated. Doing the niyama means performing the activities within the bandwidth of regulative principles. Yama, niyama. Asana will give sthairiam. If you remember the previous verse, that is given sthairiam. And then there is pranayam. So pranayam will remove the dosha, especially kapha vata pitta. And then there is pratyahara. Pratyahara is now been mentioned here. Pratyahara will eradicate the material association. Then there is dharana. Dharana can eradicate all the sinful activities. And dhyana will eradicate the effect of three modes of material nature. So this is how, and then ultimately samādhi, which will make one completely transcendental. So these are the effects of Ashtanga Yoga, and each anga, each limb of this Ashtanga Yoga. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada writes, Ayurveda accepts the principle of kapha vata pitta. And based on kapha vata pitta, the body's constitution can be completely understood, and one can control kapha vata pitta, and all these imbalances one can control by especially the process of pranayama. And therefore yoga and pranayama, they are extremely powerful. So although our marga is not dhyana yoga, we can always utilize some of the elements in the process of bhakti marga also, because they are useful. But one should not get carried over. That is very important thing. One should not, it should not be achidam. Our bhakti should not be covered over by other things. But one can always utilize, this is coming from the Supreme Lord Kapila Muni only. So we should utilize this to, a certain extent. Finally, Srila Prabhupada says, all the activities which are mentioned in Dhyana Yoga, there is a parallel in Bhakti Yoga. And what is the difference? The difference is that in Bhakti Yoga, the activities becomes very, very practical and feasible, whereas in Dhyana Yoga, the activities becomes impractical and literally impossible for most of the population. One is practical, another is difficult. Klesho adhikatarastesha. And the things are, and if somebody after doing all this gymnastic, if somebody is doing dhyana and dharana on the void, shunya, then it is like avyaktahi gatir dukkham. Even the result is also dukkha. Process is dukkha and result is dukkha. But that is not the case with devotional service. Devotional service is practical and implementable by anyone and everyone. Srila Prabhupada says in that beautiful record, even a dog can take part in chanting and dance in ecstasy. Okay, so this is the potency of devotional service. Text 12. Yada manasvam virajam yogena susamahitam kashtam bhagavato dhyayet svanasagra avalokanaha. Translation.
When the mind is perfectly purified by this practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half-closed eyes and see the form of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. It is clearly mentioned here, purport. It is clearly mentioned here that one has to meditate upon the expansion of Viṣṇu. The word kashtam refers to Paramatma, the expansion of Viṣṇu. Bhagavata refers to Lord Viṣṇu, the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is Krishna. From him comes the first expansion, Baladeva, and from Baladeva comes Sankarshana, Aniruddha, and many other forms, followed by Purusha-avtaras. As mentioned in the previous verse, Purusharchanam. This Purusha is represented as the Paramatma or Supersoul. A description of the Supersoul upon whom one must meditate will be given in the following verses. In this verse, it is clearly stated that one must meditate by fixing the vision on the tip of the nose and concentrating one's mind upon the Kala or the plenary expansion of Viṣṇu. Hare Krishna.
Yada manasvam virajam. So when the mind is perfectly purified by the practice of yoga, one should concentrate on the tip of the nose with half closed eyes. You just try this out. Try to see the tip of the nose. Try to see the tip of the nose. And eyes will be automatically half closed. And then try to remember the Supreme Lord. Okay, so mind is completely purified. And one is nasagri, this comes in Bhagavad Gita as well. And then one has to concentrate like this on the personality of Godhead. In the purport, Srila Prabhupada mentions that meditation has to be on the form of the Lord Viṣṇu. Why Prabhupada is mentioning again and again? Because it has become a practice to meditate on void, meditate on fire, meditate on anything, meditate on nothing, meditate on jhadu. Okay, so this has become a stupid practice where Patanjali, why to abuse Patanjali? He has given such beautiful yoga system, but in the name of Patanjali, people are just propagating anything and everything they want, right? So here it is very clearly said, Kashtam Bhagavato Dhyayet. Kashtam, what is the meaning of Kashtam? Kashtam means the plenary expansion. Bhagavataha, who is the Supreme Personality of Godhead, Dhyayet, one should meditate upon. So this is who is this super soul is called as a Purusha. We know that there are 3 Purusha avatars, and the super soul is called as a Purusha. And Purusha Archanam, one should meditate on such Purusha. Now, can I imagine this form of Purusha? That how the Paramatma look like? Or can I have my mental speculation about Paramatma? He's sitting with some gun in the hand, and what are the weapons he's carrying? What? No. Description of Paramatma is very clearly described in the following verses. So now we come to the second section of this chapter. Text 13 to 18, Lord's form for dharana. Okay, so these are very, very important, beautiful verses. We will be reciting all these verses 13 to 18. And next section is 19 to 33, where the Lord's form for dhyana is mentioned. Now we have seen that dharana means overall form of the Lord, and dhyana means intensified dharana, where one's meditation is on the various limbs of the Supreme Lord. And therefore, from text 13 to 33, we are going to see the form of the Lord and the limbs of the Supreme Lord. This is for dharana and dhyana. So we come to text 13 very beautiful verses. We will just recite this. Prasannavadanam bhojam
Prasannavadanam bhojam
Padmagarbharunayikshanam
Padmagarbharunekshanam
Nilotpaladalashyamam
Nilotpaladalashyamam
Shankha-chakra Gadadharam.
Shankha-chakra-gadadharam.
So what we'll do, we will just read the translations and these 4 or 5 verses, and then we will continue with our purport. Translation.
The Supreme Personality of Godhead has a cheerful lotus-like countenance with ruddy eyes like the interior of a lotus, and a swarthy body like the petals of a blue lotus. He bears a conch, discus, and mace in 3 of his hands.
Yeah. Prasanna bhojam. So very extremely cheerful. Prasanna means cheerful. Vadanam bhojam. Padma garbha arunekshanam. So his Padma garbha, it's like the Kamal ka bhitari bhag, Padma garbha. Arunekshanam, and beautiful reddish eyes. Nilotpaladala shyamam shankha chakra gadadharam. And Nilotpaladala shyamam shankha chakra gadadharam. Very beautiful verse. Text 14. Lasat pankaja kinjalka Pita kausheya vasasam Srivatsa bhakshasam brajat Kaustubha mukta kandaram. Translation.
His loins are covered by shining cloth, yellowish like the filaments of a lotus. On his breast he bears the mark of Shrivasa, a curl of white hair. The brilliant Kaustubh gem is suspended from his neck.
Yeah. So now the further description of Paramatma. His loins are covered by the shining cloth, yellowish filament of a lotus. And he is wearing, there is a Srivatsa, and then he is wearing the beautiful, brilliant Kaustubha jewel. Text 15. Mattadvire fakalaya Paritam vanamalaya Parardhara Pirita Angadanupuram. Translation.
He also wears around his neck He also wears around his neck a garland of attractive sylvan flowers, and a swarm of bees, intoxicated by its delicious fragrance, hums about the garland. He is further superbly adorned with a pearl necklace, a crown, and pairs of armlets, bracelets, and anklets.
Prabhuji, not audible.
Oh, so this is the further description of the Supreme Lord. He is wearing the beautiful garland, the garland of the beautiful fragrant flowers, and the flowers are so fragrant that the bees, the bumblebees, they intoxicated, mattadve refa. They are intoxicated with this, and they are always humming around the Supreme Lord, intoxicated by the fragrance of the garland and the fragrance of the Supreme Lord. Paritam Vanamalaya, he wears a beautiful Vanamala. And also, he has the pearl necklace, Valaya bracelets, Kirita crown, Angada armlets, and Nupuram anklets. This is the form of the Lord, how he is wearing the different abhushanam. Text 16. Kanche guna ullasat
Anchi
द्रोणिं हृदयाम्बुजोर्विष्टरम् दर्शनीयतमं शान्तं
दर्शनीयतमं शान्तं
मनोनयनवर्धनम्
मनोनयनवर्धनम्.
Translation.
His
His
loins and
loins
hips encircled by a girdle. He stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. He is most charming to look at, and his serene aspect gladdens the eyes and souls of the devotees who behold him.
Yeah. His loins and hips are encircled by the girdle, and he stands on the lotus of his devotee's heart. Right? The Supreme Lord is standing in the heart of a devotee. He is most charming to look at, Shantam Manonayana Vardhanam, and the souls of the devotees behold him. Very gladdened to see. Devotees become very, very glad to see this form of the Supreme Lord. Just two more shlokas, we'll just recite them. Text 17. Apiccha darshanam shashvat
Darshanam Shashvat
sarvaloka namaskritam tam vayati kaishore Nityanugraha Kataram. Translation.
The Lord is
The Lord is
extremely very
eternally very
beautiful.
beautiful, and he is worshipable by all the inhabitants of every planet. He is ever youthful and always eager to bestow his blessings upon his devotees.
Yeah. Ever beautiful, worshipped by everyone, very, very youthful. And what a beautiful verse here. Bhaktya Anugraha Kataram. Kataram means very eager and anxious. For what? Bhaktya. To his devotees, Anugraha. He's always thinking how to bless his devotee, the Varadaraj, right? Bhaktya Anugraha Kataram. The last verse in this section. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam.
Tirtha Yashasam
Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. Dhyaye Devam Samagrangam.
Dhyayevam Samagrangam
Chavate Manaha. Translation.
The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed.
So, the Lord is Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam. Is always worth singing of his glories, and his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. And therefore, one should sing not only glories of the Lord, but the glories of his devotees and meditate in this way. Dhyayed. So Dhyayed, the dhyana part is going to be coming next. So we will conclude here and continue tomorrow. Srila Prabhupada ki jai,
Jai.
Gaura Bhakta Vrinda ki jai. Thank you,
Jai.
Prabhupada. Thank you,
Thank you,
everyone. Hare Krishna.
Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhupada.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Hare Krishna. Dandavat pranam.
Thank you, Prabhupada. Thank you, Prabhuji. Thank you, everyone. Hare Krishna.